Hello.
What's up?
Almost tried to do the Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello.
Hello.
Again, but didn't want to butcher it like I did last time. So we're back for another episode this week, and we are going back to California for the continuation of our Spooky State series.
If you guys haven't called on, we're doing alphabetical order.
Yeah, we've started doing alphabetical order, so this is why we're revisiting California, and I think we've maybe picked some, like, better stuff than last time.
I think so.
More interesting stuff.
Two of my three are kind of short, but they're interesting. All three of mine are
A lot.
two of them aren't that much. One of them is just
Yeah, we have the one of hers. We know that there's a disclaimer if you don't want to hear about like little kids being hurt or any stories of that nature about if stories about children in this realm of what we talk about bother you, please, we'll let you know when to skip.
And I'm gonna go ahead and let you know I'm dropping the F-bomb at least once during this one.
Okay.
Because it's in what I wrote. It's warranted.
Okay. So I'm going first, correct?
Go for it. Do a couple.
I'm starting off a little not so in deep.
Pause. I looked over here. You know, we just went through your desk looking for that.
Yeah, we were looking for tiny stickers, and I've got so much junk that it's impossible to find them.
Well, as we're going through her desk, you know, we shuffled stuff around. That's fine. So I look over at her desk just now, just kind of glanced, and I was like, oh, hey, she's got the same planner as me on her desk. And then I realized, no, dummy, that's your
mine.
planner. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
So I'm starting off at Oak Park Cemetery, which is in Claremont, California. I wasn't able to find as much as I thought I'd be able to find on this cemetery, but I figured this far, I'll leave it in anyway. So there have been a few sightings of small gray apparitions running around at night that have been known to attack people. An investigator claimed to have witnessed hologram people, and they recorded EVPs and have captured videos of orbs, which you know how we feel about orbs around here. They're not always ghosts. But they've had videos of orbs moving in and out of a gargoyle tombstone. I went ahead and put a sentence in about it. I don't think that we, particularly I, put too much stock into orb photos, as they could be any number of things from moisture in the air, dust particles, flares from the lights, etc. But there have been some strange light anomalies caught on camera, but there are no further explanations of that. Additionally, some folks have claimed to witness winged apparitions behind the gargoyle tombstone, which have allegedly been caught on camera. And a tall winged creature has also been seen walking down the driveway and has been reported by multiple people on different occasions. And there have also been a large number of sightings of shadow men lurking around the cemetery. And that's all I had on that one.
Okay.
It was a suggested haunted place, and then I couldn't find diddly squat about it.
That seems to be the case with my other two stories.
And then my next one is East 8 Mile Road, which is reported to be one of California's most haunted locations, that runs between Stockton and Lodi, California. It is said that there is a spirit of a witch who appears on the road with many heavy goods vehicle drivers reporting a scary woman in a tattered white dress standing in the middle of the roadway.
I love a good witch
Me
story.
too. Me too. Legend goes that if you turn back to take a second look at the specter, you will see the spirit sitting in the back seat of your car.
Ew!
There have also been reports of an indigenous girl wandering the road on the night of the full moon, and locals claim that she can be heard screaming in the night.
I got chills for real.
There was a Reddit story that was posted by user Lifted Subaru Redneck, and this was posted 4 years ago.
Okay, so if you're Lifted Subaru Redneck,
please let us know.
I need to see said Lifted Subaru Redneck.
The story was archived, so there's no updates on it or anything like that.
If anyone knows Lifted Subaru Redneck, I need pictures of said.
I lifted Subaru.
I need pictures.
So here is what they wrote on Reddit. So has anyone else here seen the East 8 Mile Road Ghost Girl near Stockton, California? So here's my story. This was in late November or early December of 2012, and I was doing an install in a winery in Northern California. It was a long day because we were working out of town, so we worked late to get it finished in one day. I started driving home around midnight and had about a 3-hour drive back home to Oakland. It was about 1:30 a.m. and I'm outside of Stockton and I see this girl standing on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. She is wearing a white dress that ends about 3 feet. Is that what that says? 3
Inches.
feet? 3 inches above her knees. Well, if I would have kept reading, I would have known that was not 3 feet above her knees. And she is barefooted. She has long black hair flowing down her shoulders, and she is just standing still like a statue. I looked at her as I drove by, but she didn't move, didn't acknowledge my loud truck as it passed or anything. Was pretty freaked out because you always hear stories like this, and then she appears in your vehicle with you, but that wasn't the case. She just stood there in the night. The thing that was most weird to me was that it was cold that night, about low 40s. And it was drizzling a bit, and she was wearing a short dress and no shoes standing on the asphalt. If this was just some girl who does this for fun to freak people out, I feel like she would have been extremely cold and would have been shivering, but this girl didn't move. Sorry for such a long post, but I want to provide as much info as I can. Now, after I got home, I was thinking about it, and I searched Ghost Girl outside of Stockton, California, and I found a bunch of articles and stories about the East 8 Mile Road Ghost Girl, and most of the descriptions fit what I saw to a T. I never went back to that area because I moved to another state shortly after, but I want to travel back there and see what I can find one day. Has anyone else seen this girl in that area, or has anyone else seen a ghost girl in general on the side of the road like this? Any info would be helpful. There were no comments on the post, and the post has been archived. So I don't know if it was just a creepypasta or if it was someone's genuine experience, but it sounded very creepy nonetheless.
Yeah.
That printer started while I was...
Yeah.
That did its little thing, and I was like, not right now.
Right.
Are you reading one or am I reading another one?
It doesn't matter. What do you want to do?
How many did you say you have?
3.
Go ahead and read one.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do the hard one. Get it over with.
So this is the one with the...
Yes.
Okay.
Disclaimer, trigger warning, involves very bad things with children.
Yeah.
Turn it off, fast forward, whatever you want to do. This is not as much of a ghost story as it is creepy and disturbing. Again, this is another story that I cannot believe that I decided to write, as
you always pick these.
Fucked with me so hard mentally to write this. Why do these stories freaking find me? Like, and like I said, was it the last episode where I start writing, like I'm reading it,
and you're
rewording
like, why
it,
am I doing this?
And I get halfway through, and then something happens, and I'm like, this is fucked. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But I had already written a big portion of this and was like, I've gone too far, can't go back.
Yeah.
So, nestled in... This is Satan's Castle, in case I didn't say that. Nestled in a mountainous region that boasts as much religious lore as it does satanic lore that dates back to the 19th century, this area is said to have underground tunnels that were created for transportation for smuggling alcohol during the Prohibition mostly. But it is possible that these tunnels were created for something a little more sinister. It's rumored that one of the tunnels connects to a Catholic church, or connects a Catholic church to Satan's Castle. This home itself is a gorgeous 3-story... Damn, girl.
Sorry. Accidentally clicked something.
The home itself is a gorgeous 3-story, 2,500 square foot structure. It was thought that it was built by San Bernardino Sun, which is a newspaper, tycoon in the late 1800s. Somewhere along the lines, a man by the name of Dr. Russell Atkinson bought the property. Doctor. It infuriates me that it is always a doctor in some of the most messed up cases. He had moved to the area in 1946 and found himself running in the same circles as some pretty big names. Names such as Prince Akhoy Kumar Mozumdar of the Mozumdar Temple. Atkinson began holding huge parties for the city's bigwigs and continued to do so for years. Satan's Castle was the meeting place for a ton of social affairs of importance. But it's the rumors of the darker things that happened in this home that we are more interested in. Maybe not necessarily these dark rumors, but we do enjoy dark rumors. It is said that dark ritualistic practice that included both human and animal sacrifices were conducted here. And here's where the trigger warning begins. The biggest rumor involving the castle is that of a preschool where the staff was accused of molesting children in a ritualistic manner. These stories stated that the underground tunnels that were connected to the preschool were used by the staff to take the children to the airport nearby and fly them to the mountains and then drive them to a church. Once they were at the church, they would use yet another underground tunnel that would take them to Atkinson's house, and they would be involved in satanic practices. Then the children would be taken back to the preschool before the parents would come back to pick them up.
That's so messed up.
Once this rumor started circulating and the children got questioned, they would deny the molestation at first. Then the police force and therapists decided to use more lengthy and manipulative tactics to get the kids to tell the truth. 369 of the 400 children admitted to being sexually abused. The children would tell of a game called, quote-unquote, Naked Movie Star Game, that they would play with the teachers where they would be photographed. There were also stories told of animal sacrifices and secret passages under the school that they also named some politicians and pro athletes, shocker, that they would meet. Eventually, because of course, the case fell through and no charges were made. Now, crazy thing is that all of these allegations with the preschool started in 1983, and then mysteriously, Satan's Castle burned down in 1984. Now, the story behind...
coincidence.
Right. The story behind how this happened is unknown, but there are claims that state the fire was intentional. It was an attempt to destroy all evidence linking the house to the molestations. Hold on. Scroll too far. My source states that they found YouTube videos that spoke of a pentagram painted on the floor in one room. And then this was confirmed in another video. But the second video states that local Christians painted over it with the John 3:16 verse, but the pentagram bled through.
Ooh.
Which, side note, reminded me of the mental breakdown yellow that we painted.
Yeah, and the little demon face on the wall. I still think about that every once in a while.
Based off of aerial pictures of the house, it appears there is a lockout tower shaped like a pentagram. Lookout tower shaped like a pentagram. It at least has 5 points from what I can tell. My source also spoke of another YouTube video that they found where there are two boys who decided to explore the grounds where they witness a man and a child in the lookout tower. The man apparently giggled and screamed loudly at them while holding an upside down cross in the air. No words were spoken, but he did throw the cross at them. Neighbors have noted that they have seen hooded figures on the property late at night, and they also find animal remains on the property. However, according to the Church of Satan, this place is not currently used for any type of ritual. So, and I didn't include links to the YouTube videos because honestly, once I got to that certain point in the story, I was done.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go and watch any of those videos, but I included pictures of like the dude standing in the lookout tower with a cross.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And one of the guys that was there is holding the cross that was thrown at them.
That's creepy.
Yeah. So, go ahead with your next one.
So, Alcatraz.
This is a lengthy one.
Alcatraz is a rocky island in the San Francisco Bay. And is just known as Alcatraz Island, or also known as The Rock, which is no relation to Dwayne Johnson. Fun fact, Alcatraz means pelican, and if you listen to last podcast, you know why that's funny. From 1934 to 1963, the island served as a maximum security federal prison for some of the most dangerous civilian prisoners. Among them was Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, and Robert Stroud, also known as the Birdman of Alcatraz, who
not MGK.
Oh, no. Gross. But the Birdman of Alcatraz is somebody who I would like to do a standalone episode or ish somewhere down the line. Because he was, as cute as Birdman of Alcatraz sounds, he was actually not a good human being. The penitentiary was able to house 336 convicts in cells that measured 10 feet by 4.5 feet. And unlike some of the other either asylums or prisons we've talked about in the past, it never reached capacity, with only around 260 to 275 prisoners at any given time. There were a few escaped attempts, and few were possibly successful, but it is unknown whether the men were able to survive the currents of the bay. And after 29 years, it was obvious that the necessity of transporting fresh water, 1 million gallons a week, to and waste from the island was becoming more expensive than it was worth. There were also major restoration projects and maintenance that cost an estimated $3 to $5 million. Alcatraz was 3 times more expensive to operate than any other federal prisons at that time. In 1959, the per capita cost at Alcatraz was $10.10 per prisoner, whereas the federal prison in Atlanta, it was only $3 per prisoner. In 1972, Congress created the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and Alcatraz Island was included as part of the new National Park Service Unit. And it was opened to the public in 1973 and has become one of the Park Service's most popular sites, with more than 1 million visitors from around the world annually, which Danny's nephew, I'm so jealous, is going to be one of those visitors in like a couple weeks.
Nice.
I'm jealous. But why is it known as being one of the most haunted places in the United States, let alone California? So way back several centuries ago, the natives believed that the island was inhabited with evil spirits and would send people who violated tribal law there as a severe punishment, or even banished them for life to live among the evil spirits. Today, these evil spirits are still believed to be lurking in the shadows and have been felt, heard, and seen by staff and visitors, particularly on foggy days and nights. The sounds of men's voices, screams, whistles, clanging metal doors are said to be heard within the prison walls. Cell 14D was one of the cells that prisoners were sent to as punishment. Visitors to the prison often report feeling a raw coldness that envelops the room, making it feel like more than one spirit is present there. There was a man that died in cell 14D in the 1940s. He was found strangled on the floor of his room by guards. The story goes that the night before his death, he kept screaming that a creature with glowing eyes was trying to kill him. While walking through cell blocks A, B, and C, visitors frequently hear crying and moaning. A psychic reported encountering a malevolent spirit named Butcher here. The prison records show that a man nicknamed Butcher was assassinated here in the 1940s. Al Capone spent some of his last years at Alcatraz and would strum along with the prison's banjo band. But due to his fear that he would be killed if he dared to play the banjo out in the open, he would play in secret in the showers. Some visitors report that they can still hear banjo music coming from the showers on occasion. During its time as a federal prison, several guards reported some interesting experiences that included hearing the sounds of sobbing and moaning, terrible smells, and reports of what they called the Thing, which was an entity that was said to appear with glowing eyes. Other reports were made that involved phantom prisoners and soldiers appearing before the guards and families who lived on the island. It has been said that known skeptic Warden Johnston once encountered the unmistakable sounds of a woman sobbing while leading several guests on a tour of the prison. These cries were heard by the warden and the guests, and they described the sound as coming from inside the walls of the dungeon. Once the sobbing stopped, an icy cold wind blew right through the group. But now burned out, there were several apparitions seen at the warden's house. During a Christmas party at Warden Johnston's, several guards told the story of a ghostly man who suddenly appeared before them wearing a gray suit, brimmed hat, and sporting mutton chop sideburns. While the startled guards stared at the apparition, they said the room suddenly turned very cold, and the fire of the Ben Franklin stove was extinguished, and in less than a minute the spirit vanished. It has often been reported that the old lighthouse will all of a sudden appear on foggy nights, which is accompanied by an eerie whistling sound and a flashing green light that makes its way slowly around the island. It has been seen by both guards and visitors and disappears as fast as it appeared. During the years of operation, other guards would report hearing the sounds of phantom cannons and gunshots, accompanied by screams that seemed so real that they sent the seasoned guards to the ground because they believed that some of the prisoners had somehow escaped and obtained weapons. After taking cover, the guards would cautiously look around to see that absolutely nothing happened, and these incidents were never explained. Another common experience of some of the guards was the smell of smoke that often came from the deserted laundry room, and it smelled as if something in there was on fire. When investigated, the black smoke was so thick that it drove the guards from the room. However, minutes later, the room would be totally smoke-free. The most notorious and supposedly haunted blocks of the prison is D Block. It was first built at the same time as the other blocks, and the Bureau of Prisons acquired monies to create a more secure D Block after the 1939 escape attempt in which Arthur Doc Barker was killed. D Block eventually became known as the Treatment Unit and was comprised of 42 cells with varying degrees of restrictions. All prisoners in D Block did not have any contact with the general population. 36 of these cells were similar to those in the other cell blocks, but the inmates were not allowed to work or go to the mess hall for meals, and they were only allowed one visit to the recreation yard and 2 showers each week. Their cells all faced the Golden Gate Bridge, from which fierce cold winds often blew, and one guard who worked D Block was known to turn the air conditioning on to make it even colder for the prisoners on that cell block. 5 of the remaining 6 cells in D Block were known as strip cells, but were most often known as the Hole. These were reserved for the most severe offenders of the prison's rules. Since these cells were located on the bottom tier, they were the coldest place in the entire prison and only contained a sink, a toilet, and a low-watt light bulb that the guards could turn off at any time. Prisoners' mattresses were taken away during the day, and inmates could spend as many as 19 days in the hole, completely isolated and in a constant state of boredom. The 6th cell was known as the Oriental, and was the most severe punishment that the prison could give. It assured complete deprivation of all peripheral senses. The dark, steel-encased cell did not have a sink or a toilet, and only had a small hole in the floor for prisoner waste. To add insult to injury, the inmates were placed in this cell totally nude and given a restricted diet. I suppose, fortunately, they were only subjected to this degree of punishment for 1 to 2 days. A former guard who worked at the prison during the 1940s reported that guards would often feel the presence of a man dressed in late 1800s prison clothes and would walk the hallway next to the hole cells. Once, an inmate who was locked in the hole immediately began to scream that someone with glowing eyes was in there with him. The guards thought the spectral prisoner to be some sort of practical joke amongst themselves and ignored the inmate's cries of being attacked. The inmate's screams continued well into the night when they were suddenly replaced with total silence. When conducting their morning inspection the following morning, the guards discovered the inmate dead with a horrifying expression on his face and obvious handprints around his throat. An autopsy revealed that the strangulation was not self-inflicted. At the time, it was widely believed that the inmate was strangled by a guard who had finally heard enough of his screaming. An investigation was done, however, no one ever admitted to the strangling. Most believe that the prisoner was killed by the restless, evil spirit of the 1800s prisoner who had been seen wandering the halls of D Block. One night, when the guards were doing their daily count, there was one too many convicts in the line, and at the end of the row appeared the recently strangled convict.
Oh.
Guards and prisoners alike just stood there in stunned silence, and then the ghostly figure vanished. Today, visitors and staff report cold spots in the hallways of D Block, with cells 12 and 14D being the most active. Cell 14D is often reported as being nearly 20 degrees colder than the rest of the cell block, and numerous psychics have claimed to have felt emotionally charged impressions of the corners of the cells where punished prisoners were known to have crouched during their suffering. It is said that some of the park rangers refused to go to this cell block alone.
It sounded like Daniel building the driveway.
He might have, I don't know. It is said that some of the park rangers refused to go to this cell block alone. And the laundry room in C Block is also said to be the home of an unseen presence. When a CBS News team brought in celebrity psychic Sylvia Brown, which, don't even get me started, along with ex-convict Leon Thompson, Sylvia immediately encountered the unseen presence and strong impressions of violence in the laundry room. She described a tall man with a bald head and small beady eyes. Leon moved forward at that point and said, "I remember Butcher. He was a hitman with Murder Incorporated before they caught him. His name was Abby Moldowitz, which we called him Butcher. Another prisoner killed him here in the laundry room." And prison records confirmed that Moldowitz was killed by another inmate in the laundry area of C Block.
I was right, Daniel.
Dun dun dun! I want to go to Alcatraz so bad.
Right.
I need to ask my Nana if she ever visited whenever she was stationed in San Francisco.
Okay, so do you want me to go ahead and read one, or you want to read another one?
Go for it.
Okay, because I only have two more.
My throat needs a break.
All right, so hold on. I'm gonna read a real short one.
Okay.
All right. Point Sur Lighthouse, SUR Lighthouse. One of the oldest and most secluded lighthouses in California, Point Sur Lighthouse is one of the most gorgeous lighthouses that I've ever seen, but also one of the most haunted. The water surrounding it, though, has proven to be not very forgiving. These treacherous water, if y'all hear talking in the background, it's Daniel, and it sounds like...
Who is he talking to?
Oh, I don't know. He's talking to somebody.
Is he on phone? Did he bring someone with him? Did he bring... Yeah, he's got Isaiah with him.
Okay.
That's the one going to Alcatraz.
These treacherous waters have seen more than a dozen shipwrecks to close to the lighthouse. In fact, the funding for this lighthouse was influenced by the 1875 wreck of the Ventura. The captain had a bit too much to drink and was drinking and boating. The ship hit the rocks. Thankfully, everyone on board made it out alive, but not the ship. This section of the coast is also where the airship USS Macon, which is the precursor to the blimp, crashed in 1935, where thankfully only two, that sounds really bad, but only 2 of the 83 members of the crew lost their lives. The lighthouse was erected, I just wanted to use that word, in 1889. And the keepers and their families...
Hardly know her.
The keepers and their families were only able to get supplies by ship. To leave the lighthouse, she would have to navigate almost 400 stairs and go several miles to make it to a county road. A doctor was a 4-hour ride on horseback.
Ooh.
Despite the seclusion, the keepers and their families fell in love with the beautiful views, so much so that it's possible they never left. There have been recordings of ghostly female voices taken in the lighthouse. One volunteer that drives 2 hours to lead tours has captured voices saying, "Now she wants you to go home," and "Pokey, go to bed." The last one is said to be the voice of Catherine Ingersoll. She was a Danish immigrant who was married to a keeper who had a daughter named Pokey. It is said that the ghost of a former resident will hang out in the kitchen as she loved to cook, and she will close doors in the kitchen. Also, there's also been seen a man in 19th century clothing has been seen hanging around the tower. But it is absolutely gorgeous. I included some of the pictures of like some of the old keepers and their families. I couldn't find any pictures of like ghosts and stuff, but
well,
I thought it was
those
really
usually
cool.
Aren't super readily available for
Right.
whatever reason.
Right. So my next one is pretty short too. So do as many as you want.
Okay.
And it's my last one.
So my next one is 12305 Fifth Helena Drive, Brentwood, California. Have you looked at my stuff?
No.
Okay, so you don't know the significance of this address?
Negative.
Okay. So located in Brentwood, California in 1929. It was built in 1929. 12305 Fifth Helena Drive stands many years after one of the most famous and debated celebrity deaths in modern history. The Spanish colonial home is hidden in a cul-de-sac in the exclusive Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, with thick gates blocking the view of the front door, which opened into a wide living room with terracotta floors. Beams of wood lining the ceiling and a blue tiled fireplace anchored the room. There was a tile next to the front door that displayed the phrase "Cursum perfici," I don't know Latin. "Cursum perficio," which is Latin for "Here ends my journey," which is quite an ominous statement, if you ask me. To the right of the living room was the master bedroom, which had a fireplace and wide windows that looked out onto tree-filled grounds. This is the bedroom where Marilyn Monroe would be found dead on August 5th, 1962, just 6 months after she had purchased her first home. She had previously lived in 42 homes, but this was the first one that was hers. She purchased the home in 1962 for just $650,000, and it was recently sold for over $7 million, and was threatened to be torn down. At the time of her death, the house was still littered with unpacked boxes. Marilyn described her home as a cute little Mexican-style house with 8 rooms. She purchased the home at the suggestion of her psychiatrist, who told her that she should put down some roots.
Was it really Marilyn, or was it the lady from the Love Has Won cult?
No, it was really Marilyn.
She said she was Marilyn.
I mean, it's Marilyn. So in her final interview with Life magazine, she said, "Anybody who likes my house, I'm sure I will get along with." During the short period of time that she lived in the Brentwood home, Marilyn had begun shooting Something's Got to Give with Dean Martin and sang her sultry rendition of Happy Birthday to President John F. Kennedy, her rumored lover. Things were looking up for Marilyn after being fired from the Dean Martin film, but was subsequently rehired by the studio, positioning her for the perfect comeback. At 4:25 a.m. on August 5th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe's body was discovered by her maid. Her death shocked the entire world, and maybe one day we might do an episode on the ups and downs of her lives and her life and her tragic death. So I won't get into any specifics of her case or any of the speculations as to what had happened. And I'll save that for another time. Over the years, it has been said that her ghost still remains in the home and has been spotted all over the property, ranging from the pool to the garage. Allegedly, there are a few photos that have been taken that seem to capture a ghost-like figure wandering around the grounds of the estate, but I couldn't find any that seemed credible online. I couldn't find much else on the house being haunted by Marilyn, as she's one of the most busy ghosts in Hollywood because she's seen everywhere. But it was claimed by the cast of the film Blonde, a fictionalized biopic of her life, that she was very much present during filming. Spanish-born actress Ana de Armas said, "I truly believe that she was very close to us. She was with us," she continued. "I think she was happy. She would throw things off the wall sometimes and get mad if she didn't like something. Maybe this sounds mystical, but it is true. We all felt it," which honestly, that doesn't sound like she was very happy.
Right.
The film began production on the anniversary of her death, August 4th, 2022. And if that isn't creepy enough, the film was shot in the apartment that Marilyn, then Norma Jean Baker, had lived in with her mentally ill mother. And creepiest of all, the death scene was filmed in the same bedroom of the same house where the actress had died. It might be just me, but that feels super, disrespectful and distasteful.
Does.
That feels, I don't like that. That doesn't sit right with me. And again, Marilyn Monroe is labeled as one of the hardest working ghosts in Hollywood because she has been supposedly seen at so many locations. And this one wasn't anything major, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if she stayed in the home that she called her safe haven. And if her spirit was angry at the cast of the movie and threw things, I think I would have too.
Right.
So, and then I guess I'll move on to my next one, the Whaley House. Have you ever heard of the Whaley House?
I feel like, yeah.
I watched a lot of The Girls Next Door when I was in high school, and Bridget Marquardt is obsessed with the Whaley House, so that's how I'm familiar. But there's a lot to offer in sunny San Diego, and one of the most haunted houses in America is one of them. The Whaley House was built on a property that was the site of one of the town's most famous public executions. That of the hanging of the infamous thief Yankee Jim Robinson. The builder, Thomas Whaley, was clearly not spooked by this fact and purchased the land in 1855 and began construction on his future family home. Thomas, his wife Anna, and their 3 children moved into the house in 1857, and within just a few months they opened a general store inside of the home. Not long after the family moved into the home, grief also entered the home. First, their young son Thomas, who was only 18 months old, died of scarlet fever inside the home. Then, a few months later, a fire raged within the home, destroying the general store, and soon after, Thomas Sr. decided to move the family back to San Francisco. But after several years, in 1868, the Whaley family decided to return home. The family now included Thomas, his wife, and their 5 children. Upon their return, the Whaley House was once again bustling with activity, and it became the headquarters for the county courthouse, San Diego's first theater troupe, a general store, and more. That wasn't to last, because in 1870, local merchants began to move out of Old Town and move to the newly established New Town, which is now known as Gaslamp Quarter, thus abandoning Old Town and leaving it eerily quiet. But this did not deter Thomas Whaley, and he continued to live in his home. In 1871, Thomas was away on a business trip when a group of armed men held Anna Whaley at gunpoint and seized the courthouse records from the home. Many believe that this was the turning point for the family and their home. Several years later, 2 of the Whaley daughters got married inside the home. Violet, the younger of the 2, married George Bertolazzi, and although she put in her best efforts, she found the marriage to be quite unbearable, which left her divorced and full of despair. She was so distraught and depressed that she decided she could no longer live with the shame and shot herself in the chest on August 18, 1885. Since then, there have been descendants of the Whaley family that have lived and died in the Whaley house, including Thomas, Anna, and their children Lillian, Thomas, Violet, and Francis. During its several periods of restoration throughout the home's history, workers and visitors began to notice strange and mysterious sounds, sights, aromas, and encounters. The first and most well-known ghost is that is said to have lingered within the house and on the grounds was that of Yankee Jim Robinson, who died right on the spot where the home was later built. It is said that the infamous criminal would make eerie noises, loud footsteps, and left disembodied footprints, whatever that means, continually scaring Whaley family members throughout their lifetimes.
Well, so would that be like you see footprints?
Oh, yeah, that's probably what that means. It's just like footprints in the...
But there's no body that
yeah
made the footprints? Okay.
Maybe like seeing footprints appear in the carpet or something. Many visitors to the Whaley house have reported being visited by baby Thomas, who was the first in the family to pass away. They reported hearing tiny footsteps, the sounds of a baby crying, and even giggling when no one else is in sight. Other visitors have reported seeing a young woman lingering on the second floor of the home, and it is believed that it is Violet, who is still consumed with sorrow. The second floor is where she spent much of her time after her divorce, and it is said that this is why she stays close to this area, and that some areas of the house become quite cold, and her presence is felt throughout. Thomas, Anna, and several other spirits have also been felt throughout the home and on the property. Many have witnessed Thomas, Sr., dressed in his frock, coat, and top hat, standing at the top of the stairs. Others say they could smell the aroma of French perfume, which was Anna's signature scent. There are many signs that the Whaley house still belongs to those who lived there over the years, with mists appearing, lights turning on and off by themselves, crystals in the music room's lamp swinging without any prompt. No one has lived in the house since 1953, but that doesn't mean that the spirits of the dead are not still there, just waiting for visitors. Workers on the site and guests who have toured the house have told accounts of many unusual and spooky encounters, with some saying they have seen a figure looking out of the upstairs window long after the house has been closed up for the day. The sounds of children running up and down the stairs can be heard without anyone being seen. There are footsteps, cold spots, the appearance and quick disappearance of shadows that have been seen, felt, and heard by guests.
Nice.
So, if you want to do your last one, and then I'll dive into my last one, which is a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so the last one that I have, strap in, is the Yorba Linda Cemetery. Established in 1858 by Don Bernardo Yorba, the Yorba Cemetery is the oldest private burial ground in Orange County. It is now surrounded by a suburban neighborhood, but is said to be haunted by the ghost of a woman in the most specific way. On June 15th of even-numbered years, between the hours of 12 a.m. and 4 a.m., the ghost of the Pink Lady shows up to take a walk around the cemetery. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
One particular day, every other year, in a 4-hour period.
Yeah.
This is said to be the spirit of Alvina de los Reyes. The 17-year-old woman died in the early 1900s, right around 1910, in a carriage accident, per the legend. However, historical evidence states that she actually died of pneumonia. The story of the Pink Lady is pretty damn sad. A young woman dressed in a pink dress went to a dance. When she was returning home in her buggy, she bounced out of the buggy, hit her head, and died.
No.
She was brought to Yorba Cemetery and buried. Now, I've told you all of this only to let you down and tell you this.
Oh, no.
The story is completely made up.
Oh, no.
The person that they think could be the pink lady was not in a buggy when she died, like I said.
I don't think it was like a shopping cart.
Huh? Well,
I know that's not what you mean, but that's all I can think of because that's what we call them.
right. But also, there's a librarian who worked at the Yorba Linda Library who needed a story to tell to some kids on Halloween. So she formulated this story, mixing up a lot of other stories, and told it to a couple kids, who told it to a couple more, and then they told more, and you know how that goes. So...
Yeah. I love it when there's a twist like that.
Sorry.
I'm usually the one that's like throwing those in, and I'm like, and it was not at all true.
Right. I was so into this story, and then I'm like reading through it because like I found 3 or 4 different websites.
Take the wind out of your sails?
Well, I'm like, because I was into it because I had like 3 different websites brought up at the same time, and I'm reading it. Read this one a little bit, and then I go read this one a little bit. So I'm like right on par with the same like time frame with the story, and then I get down to that part, and I'm like, the fuck.
See, that's usually how it happens to me, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it in. Alright, so my last one is very long, but if you're a Disney adult, or you like Disney, or you want to go to Disneyland, and you also happen to like ghosties,
I'm here for it.
I am
here for you.
I am here for you, and I'm prepping you. So, I couldn't let another spooky California episode go by without bringing up Disneyland, because
I never thought about it.
Oh, way back when, Shane Dawson, you know how he used to do his Spooky Boys episodes,
yeah, I love
videos.
Shane.
So he posted, him and Ryland and all of them went to Disneyland, and they had like a private tour guide, and the tour guide was telling them ghost stories of like things around Disneyland, and I was like, and that when I was doing this episode and I found the list and it said Disneyland, I was like, I remember that video. So anyway, so seen by the world as one of the most magical and friendly places on Earth, Disneyland is home to not only Mickey and Minnie, but also a few specters as well. Many of the Disney cast members have confirmed that ghosts are lurking around every corner of the park, and they have identified many of the most haunted locations and have said that about 80% of Disneyland Resort is haunted. So, starting off in Toontown, one cast member said that the basement of Mickey's house in Toontown is not where you want to be alone. I've personally seen some trash cans move when I'm the only one there. I've seen reflections of figures in the mirror over my shoulder, and some cast members have even said they heard demonic voices in there. No, thank you.
Right.
So at Disney California, I'm just going to like name some and then name what's seen there. So Disney California Adventure. Even though it was only founded in 2001, Disney California Adventure still has its fair share of ghosts. In fact, cast members identified 2 spots where paranormal activity has been reported. One cast member said, I've read freaky posts about a ghost in the locker room at Disney California Adventure, and now I get chills every time I go there. So I've stopped storing stuff in these lockers and just carry my things when I'm in the park. Another cast member mentioned that near Disney California Adventure Park entrance on Buena Vista Street, there is a little girl ghost that likes to play around in the stores. They continued, I heard the stockroom door open and close, but there was no one there. Then I heard a loud crash. One of the items in the stockroom broke by itself. There was no way it could have fallen off the shelf. It was empty in the park, and no one else was in the store with me. It definitely spooked me. I can imagine.
Right.
And then over at Splash Mountain, which even though it's been permanently closed in both Disneyland and Disney World, it is being rebranded to a Princess and the Frog themed ride.
Oh, hell yeah.
Called Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
That's my favorite movie.
Me too. I love that movie.
One of my favorite
It makes me cry at the end when that bug dies.
You watched that for the first time with us.
Yeah, I've watched it a bunch since then.
You're welcome.
Someone who wished to remain anonymous said that her husband is working on the construction crew on the ride and said that it isn't going down without a fight. They have tools that go missing and are found randomly in hard-to-get areas. They can be pulling wire from the wall and it feels like someone is pulling back. And they have even had fires and a small explosion happen.
Oh.
For many, many years, there have been reports of Walt Disney himself taking an after-hours train ride, or there are even talks of him smoking in a stairwell. Others claim that deaths have occurred in the park, have resulted in their spirits remaining inside the attractions where they died.
I mean, listen, if I had to die somewhere and then my spirit stayed there, Disneyland is like
not
top.
a bad one.
It's top on my list.
Yeah. So
one of the top, not the very top.
Right. So another popular hangout for Walt. I feel like I threw a sentence in randomly in the middle of all that. But another popular hangout for Walt Disney is in his old apartment above the Main Street fire station. When he was alive, Walt had an apartment on the second floor of this building, and he used it as sort of a home base while the park was being built and stayed there often after Disneyland opened. He hosted celebrities and VIPs in his apartment, and whenever he was in the park, he would light a lamp at the fire station window to let everybody know he was there.
Nice.
According to Disney legend, soon after Walt's death, a woman from the maintenance crew was cleaning the apartment and noticed that the lamp was lit. She turned it off and left, only to see it lit in the window when she got outside.
Ooh.
Then she did what only insane people would do and went back inside and turned it off again.
I would have done the same thing.
But when she got back outside, the lamp was once again relit. And then she went back in again and turned it off. But this time, she didn't leave the apartment. The lamp turns itself back on right in front of her.
Ooh.
Since then, nobody has tried to turn off the lamp, and it has been left burning to symbolize Walt Disney's presence in his beloved Disneyland. To this day, cast members often report hearing footsteps or knocking coming from the fire station apartment, particularly at night.
He's still hanging out.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That was like his life's work.
Right.
So some of the shops throughout the park are also apparently haunted. The stockroom on the 4th floor of the Star Trader has been reported to have cold spots and an overall creepy feeling to it. There have also been stories about some of the merchandise being rearranged on the shelves after the shop is locked up for the night and no one else is around. And it has also been said that the hat booth, Hatmosphere, is also haunted, in which the sewing machine they use to embroider names on hats never gets warm even after being used all day. Someone once said they also saw a face in the machine. Now, I do work doing embroidery all day, and it just very well could be that they have high quality machines. Because the machines that I use, the only parts of them that get warm or hot to the touch are the lights that shine on the needles. The machine itself doesn't get warm. So that could explain that. Just throwing that out there. One of the ice cream carts is also allegedly haunted, with cast members hearing a woman's voice, even with no women around.
Oh.
And a place that is a place truly haunted if it doesn't have a lady in white. On Main Street, the lady in white appears in and around the stores on Main Street, dressed in clothing from the turn of the 20th century. Legend says that she died on the property in the early 1900s, but has never moved on. The Rivers of America. So in the 1970s, 2 brothers hid on the Tom Sawyer Island after the park closed. To get off the island and to avoid the cast members that may have still been around, they decided to swim across the rivers of America. The older brother swam across, towing his little brother behind him, and for reasons unknown, he could not make it the entire way across and drowned in the river. The younger brother did manage to survive and was found by cast members, but it took until the next morning to find the body of the older brother. Today, many cast members have mentioned feeling an eerie presence and seeing unexplained ripples in the water, and some say that they have seen an apparition around the rivers of America, which could be the older brother. And then on the Matterhorn, there have been at least 2 deaths reported on the Matterhorn ride, and many others have been injured. So Disney legend goes that a woman named Dolly died on the Matterhorn when she was thrown from the bobsled because her seatbelt unbuckled.
Oh.
It is said that this woman still haunts the tracks of the Matterhorn, sometimes manifesting as a ghostly figure. I don't know what other kind of figure she would manifest as, but other cast members have reported feelings of being watched, cold spots, and even hearing whispers while walking on the tracks at night. These next 3 are kind of like rapid fire. So the Weeping Boy. According to some, a Disneyland guest once wanted to spread her son's ashes in the Haunted Mansion ride, but was not given permission by the park. But this did not deter her, and she spread his ashes in the ride anyway. Since that night, the ghost of a small boy is often seen crying at the exit of the Haunted Mansion.
I'd probably cry too if I got stuck on that ride as a small child.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure it's illegal to spread ashes in Disney. In a Disney park?
Probably.
Because usually if you're caught doing it, they'll just clean it up and throw it away. And I think they'll call the police on you. The Monorail Man. So during a grad night in the 1960s, which I had to look up what a grad night was, and apparently that's a thing, and they still do it. A young man attempted to sneak into the park via the monorail. However, a cast member spotted him, and the young man took off running down the tracks. But unfortunately for him, he was struck and killed by an oncoming monorail train. Oh. And since then, rumors have circulated that a young man can be seen running along the monorail tracks at night, only to vanish without a trace. And then my last one is Mr. One Way. There is one ghost at Disneyland that has earned himself a nickname. Mr. One Way is often seen on Space Mountain and is described by many as a large man with red hair and a red face. Rumor has it that it is the ghost of a man who died on that ride in the 1970s, and he is usually reported taking a seat next to single riders, but is gone by the end of the ride.
Oh.
No, thank you.
Right.
You can one-way yourself to another seat. So, that is Haunted Disneyland.
Well, I like it. It just never occurred to me to even think about Disneyland when we did these California episodes.
California in general is, like, really haunted.
There's so much. That book that I have, I didn't even touch that book for this episode, really, but there's just so much. Okay, so I have the nonprofit for this one, and this is Project Linus. I kind of wanted to do something for this one. It is being released on the 20th, so you guys are listening to you might not be listening to it on the 20th. I would listen to it on the 21st. But
yeah, most people do.
Yeah. So it's, right at Christmas time. So I wanted to do something that might be a little Christmassy, maybe, possibly. But this is Project Linus. Project Linus headquarters is located in Belton, Missouri. National President Patty Gregory and Vice President Mary Balagna direct and orchestrate the activities of Project Linus chapters located across the United States. Patty has been involved with the organization in the Kansas City area since April of 2000 and Mary in Central Illinois since late 1998 as chapter coordinators and now as directors and officers. Mary also maintains a very busy chapter, donating an average of 350 blankets every month to local children. With chapters in all 50 states, Project Linus continues to grow. Blankets are collected locally and distributed to children in hospitals, shelters, social service agencies, or anywhere that a child might be in need of a big hug. Rarely a month goes by that Project Linus is not featured in a local or national magazine or program. So their story is on Christmas Eve 1995, an article titled Joy to the World appeared in Parade magazine. It was written by Pulitzer Prize winning photojournalist Eddie Adams. Part of the article featured a petite, downy-haired child named Laura. Laura has unusual compassion for others, Charlotte Berry Williams of Oceanside, California, says of her daughter, who was diagnosed with leukemia in 1993. I guess part of the reason is that she has experienced so much pain herself. A special blankie has helped Laura, who at the time was 3, get through more than 2 years of intensive chemotherapy. She takes it to the hospital with her when she goes for treatment. When she was first diagnosed, 97% of her bone marrow contained cancerous cells. Although chemotherapy has helped eradicate the cancer, she has had to endure nausea, high fevers, and the loss of her hair. An allergic reaction at one point caused her to lose vital signs. She doesn't understand what cancer means, her mother says. She's a very joyous and happy person, very curious. Her mother hopes Laura can start preschool next spring, as of whenever this was written. After reading the article, Karen Laux decided to provide a new handmade security blanket, or provide new handmade security blankets to Denver's Rocky Mountain Children's Cancer Center, and Project Linus was born. Aww. Their mission is to provide love.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, like from the Peanuts. Their mission is to provide love, a sense of security, warmth, and comfort to children who are seriously ill, traumatized, or otherwise in need through the gifts of new handmade blankets and afghans, lovingly created by volunteer blanketeers. They want to provide a rewarding and fun service opportunity for interested individuals and groups in local communities for the benefit of children. So basically, they're just there to make sure that these babies feel like they're loved when they need it the most.
That's really sweet. I like that.
I like it a lot. So there'll be as always, a direct link for you guys to donate to that foundation.
I think that we're losing the wind in our sails.
Yeah, pretty much. But the next 2 episodes are fun episodes. Yeah. So.
Well.
So, follow us on the socials.
Instagram.
Facebook.
X.
TikTok. Email us at
wandersofweird@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah.
The hell.
I'm tired.
Same.
It's 11:30 and we still have 2 more episodes. Oh, send us your topic ideas. Tell us that you love us.
Yeah. Buy us a Christmas present
on our Amazon wish list.
All that's linked in the episode notes. Well, I guess that's it. We need to get moving.
Okay, bye.
Bye.